Hello everyone. Today I am here to discuss about nasopulmonary drug delivery system. As you know that there are many routes by which drugs can be administered in our body. Some of the routes are parenteral route, oral route, nasal route, intramuscular route. But in this lecture, I will let you know about the nasal route by which drug can be administered. And this one is the one of the best route for the administration of drug. In ancient times, in Ayurveda, medicines were administered through nasal route, and this process was known as nasya. Nowadays, intranasal drug delivery system is one of the recognized system. It is known as useful and reliable system of administering drug. This system is alternative to oral and parenteral route. Undoubtedly, this intranasal administration of medicine, it is used for the symptomatic relief and prevention of the conditions. In this route, the nasal mucosa is seriously emerging therapy by which the drug can be administered systemically through nasal route. There are some advantages of the nasal pulmonary administration, that it bypasses hepatic system, because in hepatic, when the drug goes through first path metabolism, then many of the protein and peptide containing drugs get metabolized and the bioavailability of the drug gets reduced. But in this nasal system of administration, the first part metabolism is avoided. There is quick and onset of action through this route because the drug directly goes into the brain, and the bioavailability of the drug is more by this route because if we are using a drug of large molecules, then it can also be absorbed easily because we can add bioenhancers in the drug so that the absorption is improved by the system. Otherwise, it is very good bioavailability in smaller drug molecules through this route. This is very convenient method as compared to parenteral medication, because in parenteral medication it is a painful process, while nasal route is not a painful process. While taking drug through gastrointestinal route, then the fluids present in the gastrointestinal tract, they are acidic in nature, and some of the drugs, they have poor stability in GIT fluids. So the drugs get decomposed by this system. So it is better to use nasal pulmonary drug delivery system, because in this case there is no decomposition of drugs. This is very easy and convenient method because it can also be used for the unconscious patients. The drug can be administered through nasal routes. So, looking for all these advantages of nasal pulmonary drug delivery system, this system is preferred over parenteral and oral system. Nowadays, insulin, propranolol, they are some of the drugs which can be administered through the system. Moreover, we have drugs which act on CNS can be administered through nasal route. So this route is very this route is very efficient route which shows 100% bioavailability of the drugs. There are some of the limitations of the system, which includes if there is any allergic conditions, then the bioavailability of drug is reduced. And if we are using absorption enhancers for the large molecule drugs, then these absorption enhancers can cause toxicity, which is a huge limitation for this route. It is also inconvenient for the patients who have nasal irritation, because if a patient is having a nasal irritation, then a patient will not be compatible with this system. Moreover, the nasal cavity is having a smaller absorption surface as compared to GIT tract. That's why it is difficult to absorb maximum drug through this route. That's why they have some of the limitations of this route. Now, this is the pathway of drug absorption. Just look into the slide. If the drug is administered through nasal route, then it is administered in the nose cavity. Then in nose cavity there is olfactory epithelium, and other is respiratory epithelium in which the drug is absorbed. In olfactory epithelium, the small quantity of the drug directly goes into the brain and it shows effect. And in respiratory epithelium, the exchange of gases occurs by which the drug goes into the systemic circulation and it enters into the blood-brain barrier, and after that it acts on brain. This is the pathway for the absorption of drug through nasal route. This is the nose-brain pathway. Nose-brain pathway is a very rapid system for the route for the delivery of the drug, which is directly delivered to the brain. In this system, the olfactory mucosa, it is the mucosa which is present in the nose, and it is the smelling area in the nose which is directly in contact with the brain and CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. In this system, the medication is directly absorbed in the olfactory mucosa and it enters into the CSF, and finally it shows activity and therapeutic action is shown by the CSF. This area is termed as nose-brain pathway, and it is shown in the in between brain and olfactory mucosa, and it is shown with the red circle as well. Now, the mechanism of drug transport across through nasal mucosa are of three types. One is paracellular, which is also called as intercellular. Second one is transcellular, and third is transcystotic mechanism. As I just wanted to tell you that the nasal route, it is very popular in today's time, because through this route many drugs like insulin, melanocyte stimulating hormone, ACTH, levodopa, and many more drugs can be administered through this route. And these drugs show 100% bioavailability as compared to parenteral and oral route. As I told you, because in this route the hepatic there is bypassing of bypass is done, but in which the decomposition of the drug doesn't take place. Now, if we move towards the intercellular mechanism, in this mechanism, slow and passive absorption of the drugs occurs, in which the drug moves through intercellular spaces. If you look into the figure, then in the orange dots, it is shown that the drug will move through the intercellular spaces and show the action. And some of the drugs which have the mechanism through intercellular way are insulin, melanocyte stimulating hormone, and adrenocortical stimulating hormone. These are the hormones which acts through intercellular method. Then transcellular methods. In this method, the lipophilic drugs which shows maximum action through nasal route, these diffuses passively and have active transport through one cell to another cell, and by this way they show the action. Some of the example of the drugs which show activity by nasal route are levodopa and carbidopa. And the last mechanism by which the transport occurs is transcystotic method, in which the particle is taken into a vesicle and then they are transferred into the cell, and in this way they show the action of the drug. So that was all about the nasal route, and I hope you have understood the lecture. In the next lecture, I will tell you what are the various methods by which we can take drugs through nasal route. Some of them you might be knowing, like nasal sprays, nasal gels, nebulizers, the meter doses. These all are the methods by which nasal drugs can be taken through nasal route. So that's all for today's lecture. Have a great day.